Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We are here with Samir for another edition of Young and Empowered. And today we're going to talk about generational trauma and societal trauma and why it's important to heal it. But before I get into all that stuff, I just wanted to welcome Samir again. And Samir, thank you for joining us again
Thank
and being my wonderful co-host in this
you.
endeavor. And just with the audience, if you can share what's been happening since we haven't seen you for a month, what's going on, what's new.
Thank you for having me on. And I always love doing these shows with you. They're awesome. And since the last time we spoke, I actually been able to, put a couple of my ideas and my thoughts into action. One of them being a song I have with my boy KJ, his stage name KJ Suave. We have a song releasing July the 30th. It's called Je besoin
Woohoo.
de nous. It's French for I need us. So we shot the video. We had a blast shooting the video, and we're getting everything together to get it on every platform. And take a listen. I hope you guys enjoy. Give me some honest feedback. It should be a great song.
I did a sneak peek in your Instagram. I think now I know what you're talking about. When I looked at it, I'm like, what's going on? What is he up to? I'm like, okay, now I'm even more excited. That looked really fun.
And it's music has always been something that I've always been tapped into from a young kid, and naturally gravitated towards. And I've got enough feedback from my friends and my close, people in my circle saying like, yeah, hey, you actually got some talent. Why don't you just put something out there? So we did that, and it actually turned out really good. I feel really good about it, and I can't wait for you guys to listen to it.
How exciting! I can't wait either. So, audience, we're gonna have the link up as soon as it's released. We'll have it up for the next show and just on our social media feed. Be on the lookout for it. I'll post it on mine, and I'm sure Samir is gonna post it as well. So, be on the lookout. I'm excited. That's fun.
Thank
Nice,
you,
nice.
thank you.
So, today, generational trauma and societal trauma, just to give everybody an idea of what I'm talking about. So, if you look at our everyone, and nobody escapes this really, but throughout different generations, as we've come into these physical bodies and the families and the lives we've come, every generation, those, if you don't clear it out, if you don't clear those fears that you have, those traumas that you have, whatever, it doesn't get cleared up, um, it transfers to the generations after. So a lot of you probably have heard me say, one of the reasons I got into this work, in healing myself, was because of Ilya, because I didn't want what I had received from the past generations to transfer down to him, and for him to be lighter. So, all those fears, traumas, issues, if you have issues with rejection, abandonment, not feeling abundant, not feeling worthy, all of that stuff has been transferred generation to generation. And also, again, this touches both societal and generational, is when we're talking about issues of race, issues of gender, all of that too is traumas that gets passed down from generation to generation. Now, why is healing it important? We are, I think, in a pivotal time in our time right now, in the history, in the world, where we see things moving at a much faster speed. And I think, I believe, if we all work on that generational and societal healing, especially the younger generation, we're going to have a change the course of history, change the outcome of what is going to be coming out, so that we don't pass all those anger and fear and hatred down to um, our kids and come at it from a place of forgiveness, that we forgive um, our ancestors for passing it down to us, and forgive the people that caused the harm in those situations, as well as forgiving ourselves for carrying it. So there's a work of healing and forgiveness that needs to take place so that the future generations, especially you young people out there listening to this Young and Empowered show, for you guys to move throughout much lighter, in a better path, better way. And really, it's like changing, taking down the house and changing the foundation, building a new foundation for this civilization, for this world of ours. So those are my ideas. Now I'm going to hand it to you, Samir. What are your thoughts?
Well, this is a really awesome topic of conversation, and it's necessary to speak about. I think that our generation, my speaking for myself and my generation, and the ones after me, we're fortunate to at least be aware that this exists. We have a
Yeah.
definition for it. We have a name for it: generational trauma. But before that, I don't think that it was just it. It is what it is. This is how life is, and just deal with it. But we are fortunate to at least know it exists, and the fact that we now know it exists and it's circulated through our culture, I think it's safe to say that we have a responsibility to say, all right, it stops here with
Mm-hmm.
me. So, um, generational trauma, it's inevitable. Our parents go through their lives, that their parents go through their lives. They experience life from their lens, and then they translate what they think of life down. And there comes a certain point where you, as an individual, you think, okay, I do not want to take this on. I don't want to take this way of thinking on. I don't want to take, my view of the world like my parents have. And I think it all starts of just being aware that it exists, and trying to find the root of where this trauma and this suffering comes from. And like you were saying, I love what you said about forgiving it. And it's much easier said than done, but you're not forgiving for anybody else but yourself. So when you forgive, you break free from that bind that makes you feel, whether it makes you feel stuck or makes you feel helpless or makes you feel like there's no hope. You get to that root and you forgive whatever your parents, your grandparents have done, and realize that they were operating from their lens, and it just makes everything. I feel like that's the first step to begin easing whatever you might be going through in
Uh,
the generational trauma.
yes, yes. And I like how you broke down the forgiveness part, because I mean, when I do the sessions, I talk about this, is that um, forgiveness, first of all, happens in layers. So it might not be just as you say, okay, I forgave, and you magically everything goes. Sometimes you do have to forgive in layers. So if you feel like, oh, I forgave, but that anger or that hurt is still there, keep at it, because sometimes when it's something big, it works in layers.
Right.
And like Samir said, that forgiveness, it is not easy sometimes and necessary, because if you look at it, is you're holding on to those ties and ropes and chains and bounds that you have to the past, because you're carrying it. Forgiving that person, the whoever, what group, whatever caused it, um, is to say, I know you came at this with your best intention, meaning like you didn't know better. You were
Right.
hurt. Something even maybe happened to you. You had trauma in your life for you to cause this. or that this was your best, you couldn't do better than this. You know, a lot of times I say with parents, that, you know, when we talk about what's transferred from a parent or what the parents do, is not to blame them, is to say all the parents can do is their best, and their best, you have to understand, that comes from all their experiences, their parents experience, their grandparents, great grandparents, and that's what you're talking about with the generations. So you're forgiving them because they have done their best from where they've come from. And also, if there was a traumatic experience, like an abusive type of place, like sexual abuse, physical abuse, even that comes from a place that they were abused themselves, and somehow, somewhere, and that's what they brought into your life. So forgiving is you letting go of those ropes and chains and bondages of the past and saying it stops with me. I'm not gonna do it. And again, very important, it does go in layers. Sometimes it's not a just like a
Absolutely,
band-aid that you pull off.
absolutely, absolutely. Because, like you said, sometimes that wound could be very deep, and then oftentimes that's a certain situation, a certain action, a certain deed that was done a long time ago could, resurface, and the pain could feel fresh. But like you was just saying about forgiveness being in layers, it it takes a lot of courage to do that. It's not an easy thing. It takes a lot of courage to transition from harboring that painful experience and holding on
Mm-hmm.
to the resentment, which is really heavy, and transmuting that to a place of openness and empathy. And there's a famous saying in the Bible. Jesus actually says, like, "Forgive them, Father, for they don't know what they do." And I take that saying to heart, because a lot a lot of the trauma isn't deliberate. A lot of the trauma isn't, you know, it's, I want to make you feel abused. Um, it's just the operating system from the person that they were programmed with. This is how they perceive life. They are probably going through something themselves, and you owe it to yourself to accept, forgive, and release, so that
Mm-hmm.
now you can operate from a liberated standpoint versus a restricted, or you feel stuck, or it's hard for you to let whatever action or particular instance that has you feeling that this generational trauma has a hold over you. So, like you said, forgiveness definitely comes in layers, and you just have to strike up the courage to do it for you, so you can move on, and your generation after you is going to thank you. They're going to look at you and say, he's the one that made he or she is the one that made a life better for us.
So the other point that I wanted to bring, this is something that crosses generational and societal, these next two things. And I wanted to get your input and your view on it. So when we're talking about race, or and it's not sometimes, it's not just black and white. It's I know in different parts of the world there is biases with, even like, if you're from a there it's a different religions or different countries that are at war with each other because you're a certain play, and in my part of the world I know there's a lot of that as well. So all of that, and also the whole male female,
Mhm.
uh, the gender trauma itself, from what I have seen and what I've gathered, is again that's also a trauma that's been passed down from generation, and that is society and generational, that you've picked it up on both sides now. And like, if you we talk about the gender one, throughout the history, again, we don't know when it started, somewhere, some guy didn't know any better. Something happened to him. I don't know. He bumped his head and he started being mean to females and said, we
Right.
should do this to the females. They don't have any power. We're going to do. And then it took on from there and it just got passed down. That all these things that happened over the years to women not feeling they have any rights, and they don't have rights over their bodies, they don't have the same rights at workplace, at home, whatever it is.
Right.
And now over the years you see that has shifted somehow, and there's still the battle still continues with the male and the female. And take that now for, again, race is the same thing, religion is the same thing. All of it is the battles that has been so many years before us, that has just nobody's let it go, nobody's forgave, and everybody's added on to it even more and more. And we're in this place that everybody, there's acceptance, but yet there is a lot of still fighting and resistance, and the need to protect. That's the other thing that's happening, the need to protect. Where I think if we heal these traumas, these wounds, and we forgive each other, forgive the past, forgive the things that's happened to my mother, my grandmother, my great grandmother, and the things that you know, my culture did to another culture, all of those things. If we can forgive it and accept things and start fresh, what would our world be like?
That's beautifully said. That's beautifully said. And to that point, it's clear. The powers that be, whatever they may be, they like us in a state of divisiveness. They like us to have one stance versus the other. You know, and to be clear cut and choose a side versus uniting and coming to a consensus where we could coexist in a way that is very possible. However, you can't buy into the narratives that are trying to sell you to hate the opposite party.
Mm-hmm.
So we're definitely in a time which is it's a historic time where we're turning a new leaf. We're turning a new leaf. In certain cases, justice is being served. Certain cases, justice is not being served. But you just have to look at it for what it is. The generations before us have been indoctrinated and been taught and been passed down a certain conduct and way of living, and it's in certain cases it's not just and it's unright. It's not
Mm-hmm.
right, and I feel like we have a responsibility to look at these old precepts and add some fairness, and let the divine feminine, let the divine masculine intertwine. You can't necessarily overpower one or the other. They both have to coexist. And then when it comes down to race, you know, especially we talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, or we can talk about everything that's been going on, and a lot of more awareness has been put into these types of conversation. It's clear that the past was definitely wrong. What was going
Mm-hmm.
on, all the divisiveness in that, and we definitely need to, one, get better leaders, not crooked, people with ulterior motives or bad agendas, and two, look today and start with the present and make a better future for the days after to come. We have the responsibility to start changing things now. And what happened has happened. It was terrifying. It was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But it's our job to do what we can now in the present day with the open heart and space, emotionally, cognitively, to create a better future for our generation to come.
Yes, cleansing it. Let's do a
Cleansing,
cleansing.
cleansing.
Really, that's it. You know, these somebody asked me, is like, what's the goal in these shows? You know, we're not making money, we're just talking.
Right.
It's just bringing awareness, because at some point somebody's got to say, stand up and say, it stops with me.
Exactly.
And stops with me again. And I think Samir mentioned this too. We're not saying what happened in the past was right
Right.
or wrong. We're saying it's happened. It was wrong. Things have happened and they were wrong. And now can we say, okay, it stops with me. I'm cleansing it. Just like everybody talks about, stay in the present moment, stay in the now, don't go in the future, don't bring the past into the present moment. Even with these issues, staying focused on the present and you saying, okay, I'm stopping it with me, I'm cleansing it with me.
Right.
And from this point, I'm forgiving the past. And now, what do I want this now and the future nows to look like? And from a standpoint of, I've forgiven, I've cleansed it, and I'm starting fresh. And I don't want those things. And if you're coming at it from a place of, again, you mentioned love and acceptance. When you love and accept yourself,
Right.
when you acknowledge yourself, you want to give that opportunity to everyone else. Doesn't matter blue, red, black, yellow, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter male, female, whatever.
Right.
That you give that acceptance out to the other people as well, that love and acceptance. And I think one more point I want to mention with the acceptance is that if I accept myself, then there is no need for me to come force you to accept me,
Right. That's amazing. That's
because
amazing.
I am fully accepting and acknowledging myself. I know everything that touches me, and I'm accepting and taking responsibility for that. So I'm never going to put that burden on you or society or anyone else that you have to come accept me. I
Absolutely.
respect you and accept you. All I ask, respect and acceptance. Whether you give it to me or not is not the point.
Right.
But if more of us come from that, it becomes a natural point that you naturally love and accept everybody else in your life, in your existence.
Absolutely.
And that's with the male and female, I think it's the point of, we all, you mentioned this too, that we all have that divine masculine and feminine within us, each of us. If you look at it, left side, left side energy is female, right side energy is male in the body.
Right.
And you cannot be whole and complete until you bring your two sides together.
That's right. That's right.
So you got to forgive. If you're a female, you got to forgive your male part
That's right.
and your female part. Same thing for the men out there. Forgive both sides and bring them together. That's how you're going to be whole and complete.
That's right. And I wanted to mention one more thing
Yeah.
too. Um, this speaking about forgiveness and trying to put trying to halt these generational traumas. I feel like it begins with becoming aware that you do have the power to change it. You're not stuck in your situation. It's we often feel like we're stuck in our situation, and no matter what we do, we relapse back into our old ways, and it's we blame it on the generational curse or the generational trauma. If you really hone in and remain present and really take it for what it is, it's very possible for it to stop with you. And all it takes is going to the root of the problem, facing it, and addressing it every day, day by day, little by little, chip away, and continuously take action to make a better life for the generation to come after you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Right on point. Yes.
Thank you.
And it's really facing it. That's the key word you mentioned, having the courage to face it.
Right.
And when you face it, that's where the acceptance comes from. That's where your power comes from. And you being able to do that, and I can guarantee you, because I've seen it in myself, in my clients that come to me, in my son, I've seen that when you start in that path and believe that the change is possible and know the change is possible and work on it. This is not something that you say, oh, okay, but it actually does take hard work, taking responsibility, and like you said, courage to face it and change it. Key point. You will definitely, you are guaranteed change at that point.
Absolutely. And this we're in a world today where we have access to several resources and ways that you can seek help. You know,
Mhm.
I feel like communication is a great therapy. You know, you could utilize resources like a TUSA. You could find a good therapist. Whatever needs to be done so that you can get past the point of openly communicating what's holding you back or what you feel like a generational curse or trauma is. Once you be able to get into a back and forth discourse and to really express what you've been holding in for such a long time, um, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit, and
Yes.
that's a great start. And you can really start planning on how you could ensure that these traumas stop with you.
Sky is the limit, folks. You heard it. Sky is
That's
the
it.
limit. And to his point, there are a lot of resources. I mean, you don't have to come to me, but if you want the change, the resources will come to you, will show up for you, whether it's in your feeds, whether it's in your YouTube channel, it's going to show up. Once you decide that you want to change, the universe is going to deliver it in so many different ways to you. All you have to do is accept the challenge, be courageous, and take it on and release and heal those traumas. Again, not just for yourself. And again, we're calling this young and empowered, but I'm calling, hey, the 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, I'm 50. You guys
Right.
can still change for yourselves, for your kids, and for your grandkids too. So let's all do this. Thank you, Samir. Thank you. It's always
Cool.
great. Pleasure, everybody. Thank you for joining us for
Thank you.
another
Thank you.
session. And hey, be on the lookout for the links for Samir's music video. I got a sneak peek. It's interesting and it's lovely. You guys are going to like it. I can't wait.
Let's do it. Thank you for having me at Tusa. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Bye, everyone. Have a good week.